Welcome to Solarpunk Life and our continuing series with Mark Davis in Roanoke, Virginia. This one can double as a community action, and we get a little bit of backstory on how Joe got into the whole solarpunk scene and drug me right in with him. No, it wasn't a drag. Anyway, keep an eye out for some things you might be able to do in your community, and we hope you enjoy it.
So I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about how I got into solarpunk, since I got Jason into this whole shebang.
How solarpunk got into Joe.
How I found out I was a solarpunk.
Yes.
Before I even knew that was a word.
My name's Joe and I'm a solarpunk.
Really how it all started for me was that I got interested in everyday carry. I got interested in kind of the topics of the prepper community a little bit. Emergency preparedness. I had a friend that was studying for a search and rescue team. Charles, that we mentioned before, was...
Man, Charles, whether we keep name dropping you today?
Yeah, I'll tell you. He was volunteering to go through the training for helping with search and rescue teams and stuff like that, and he and I worked together. And so I started thinking about how I could be more prepared for the emergencies that could happen in my life. Bad weather, car accident, power outage during the winter for extended periods of time. At the same time, I also got solar panels on my house, and that was cool. But I was, these things hadn't coalesced yet. And as I was doing that, I was driving to and from work, and I would see people on the side of the road begging for money. Homeless people, for want of a better term. People in need. And I was at home shopping for things that I could put into my everyday carry bag. And I thought, what if I could put together a bag that I could give to one of these people that I see? And I know I brought this up with Mark
several times.
And we discussed it, and kind of the idea blossomed from that. And I ended up coming up with, I thought, a clever name for it, of Bags of Hoping, because I'm a big nerd and everybody's heard of Bags of Holding, and it's, seemed like a good thing to do. So
everybody's heard of it, telling you how insular our community really is.
So I started doing that, and I started buying these bags, and I've brought one here today to demonstrate what I've done with them so far, to share with you, Mark, where it's evolved to. And Jason has actually started doing this as well, and has some items that were contributed to this bag in particular.
So not only do you get a DIY, you also get a community action, all in one session.
All in one session. And while I was going through that conversation, a good friend of ours, Dave McCormick, sent me this meme that's basically said, and I'll probably put it up on the video here, that basically said, my wife and I thought that we were preppers, but it turns out we were just really well-prepared solar punks. Because in order to survive a real catastrophe, disaster, you need more than just supplies. You need a community, right? You're not going to be able to logically hole up in a bunker 4 people with 6 months of food and expect to get through the fall of civilization. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to make agreements with people, build trust, build a community, know how to plant and sow food and hunt animals and do all of those things, and you cannot do it yourself. You need to build a community.
And that's where my connection came in. Was I spent most of my life in farm community, growing my own meat, growing my own veggies, right? But it was a lifestyle choice. Right. I didn't know I was touching on all these other aspects.
Mm-hmm. And that's honestly where, when you explain solarpunk to people, that's the most common response is, oh, wow, I've been doing this forever.
Yeah, the values he was describing seem to be my values. And it started with me with...
Same here.
I had people pushing me about vegetarianism, and I realized that it wasn't consuming meat that bothered me, it was consuming commercial meat that bothered me. I like knowing my dinner, right? Great 14 months and a terrible 30 seconds at the end. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and we had one of our earliest episodes. Of course, we visited Small Axe Farm. I'll go ahead and I'll put the link up here to that video. And we talked with them about regenerative agriculture and how raising animals...
I have the same question. How does the link get up there?
Magically put
there it is.
And we interviewed them about the process of raising animals and using the animals as partners to regenerate the land, which is not only better for the animals and the product that they become as we consume them, but it helps the land and it brings carbon back into the ground. But we also have gone and interviewed
the complete 180.
Yeah, Kelly Farm Kitchen.
We've made friends with the Kelly Farm Kitchen.
There's a 100% vegan restaurant in West Virginia where they focus on locally sourcing their food. Mm-hmm. Everything that they get there, except for the avocados, comes from 75 miles away.
That's cool.
And
oh my God, it's
they
so
produce
good.
absolutely amazing food. Check them out. I'll put the link to that video up here as well.
A wizard in the kitchen.
So yeah, this reaction that I get when I introduce people to the term solarpunk, 50-60% of the time they'll say, "Oh, well, I already do all of that.
Oh, I'm already that.
I'm already an aspect of that.
Yeah.
I'm already vegetarian, or I'm a locavore, or I am interested in solar power, or I volunteer at the community center, or whatever." Right, and so that was my kind of journey into solarpunk, and I kind of introduced Jason into it, and it got that reaction. Mm-hmm. I joined on Facebook a group called Buy Nothing Sterling, which is there's a national group. Sterling is my local area, so that's my local group. And you're allowed to join one of those groups, and you're allowed to ask for or offer things as gifts. You're not allowed to buy or sell anything on there. And what it is, it's encouraging people to waste less by sharing what you have that's in excess, or seeking things that you can get from somebody else, borrow, skill share, tools, whatever, hand-me-downs, so that you're spending less money on new things and fewer things are going into the waste stream. And I've been part of that group now probably 6 months, and it's absolutely amazing the things that get exchanged. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is baby clothes and toys, but there's things like old dining room tables. Mm-hmm. People are actually trading cardboard boxes that they no longer have a need for. They'll give to somebody else, who then that person takes it and packs food in it to donate for Thanksgiving dinners, or homeless shelters and stuff like that, canned food drives, kind of things.
Basically learn to act like poor artists.
Yeah. But it's not even a barter system, right? It's not even I'll give you this for that. It's just I'll give you this. Yep. Hey, I need this.
We have a usable thing that I don't necessarily need anymore, and throwing it away is ridiculous. Someone out there could use it, and that's what we do.
When you're hitting both sides of that, you're not only stopping something in the waste stream. When I acquire your used thing, I'm not requiring something else to be made.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right?
And there's about 1,000 people in my local group who are participating in this, and I'd say probably 30 or 40 posts a day. And those things always have somebody who will take it, right? And so I did a kind of a fun thing a couple weeks ago. I said, hey, I have a yard and a compost pile. Mm-hmm. I will accept your compost scraps.
Yeah.
And there are people living in the apartments near me who don't have yards.
Yeah.
So I would love to be able to compost, but I don't have the space.
Right.
I will drive to your house and drop off my waste scraps.
Yeah.
And it goes right into my compost pile, and I'm getting free dirt out of it.
Yeah. Good dirt.
Good dirt. And that's not going into the waste. It's not going in the landfill. It's not going out and becoming waste. It is a waste product that is now being converted into something useful.
Yeah.
I have 6 or 7 people now a week bringing me their compost. So I repaired my wheelbarrow, and I set it out front, and they just drop it in the wheelbarrow, and I go dump in the back.
And the nice little sign that he has for it that, he'll post here.
And that's just kind of amazing to me. So that's kind of, again, my journey into it. But now I want to show off kind of what's in this bag and get your impression of this bag. This bag I view of, and I would encourage you to make one for yourself if you have the means. It serves 2 purposes in my mind. I keep this in my car in case I break down. If I break down, I have supplies that will get me through that breakdown scenario.
And also, if something besides the car breaks down.
Yeah.
Right?
And if I'm in the car and I see somebody in need, I can give this to them, and now they have something to help them through their tough times. It may only help them through a day, but that's more than if I hadn't given it to them. Is it perfect? No, but it's better than nothing.
It's extra chances.
It's extra chances. So the first thing is that this bag is reusable, and it has this nice reflective stripe on it. So if somebody is walking along the road at night, they can be seen. So it's a safety measure for them. Second thing is it holds stuff, and that's reusable. Before I get to what's in the bag, though, I also carry these wool blankets. These are the same wool blankets that Charles was using on the search and rescue team. Wool is a fantastic fabric because it maintains the ability to keep heat even when it's wet. And so I give out that blanket when I see somebody on the road, if they need one.
Now, we are currently filming this in November, and it's starting to get winter and starting to get cold. You don't necessarily need to add that in the summer, but this time of year, an extra blanket can really make the difference for someone who might be living in a tent camp or, who's out all the time.
Or they're going to a shelter, but they need one extra layer of warmth.
That it's all the difference in the world.
And for the folks that I see around my area, I've talked with a couple of them. If there's stuff in here that they can't use, they will share it. So none of this is going to go to waste.
And to speak on that, I had 3 people. They were all homeless vets. I only had 2 bags. And I said, look, here's 2 bags. And they immediately divvied up what they needed from the bags and took it. And they said, we can use all of this. We'll split it between ourselves. And, there's other people.
Will go to waste.
Other people, So I said, I felt really bad. I only had 2 bags. But they're like, no, this is enough. We can make this work. Thank you.
Having lived at multiple ends of multiple positions of the income spectrum, I can tell you those people who are most in need are the quickest people to share usually. Really unusual, but there it is.
Yeah.
Counterintuitive.
So I put a water bottle in these. Now inside of the water bottle here, I'm not going to pull it out, are a couple of these 1,000 milligram vitamin C powdered drink mixes. So it's called Emergency. And if they fill this up with water and they add that in, they're going to get a dose of vitamins and some flavor. And I take these when I'm feeling sick, limit 1 per day. And then the other thing I did was I put a couple of hair ties on here just to keep them from getting lost in the bag. So a couple of hair ties there. People have long hair, or maybe they just got some gear they need to secure. They want to tie it around a bag to keep it, whatever. Hair ties have a lot of uses.
Not really sure you should be giving things to long-haired people, but okay.
We've got some Kleenex here, personal wipes, right? Everybody needs to be clean. A little zippered bag, pencil pouch, kind of style zippered bag. And if I can get this one open, these zippers aren't the best. There we go. Got some feminine hygiene products. Some Band-Aids, right? Everybody gets scrapes and bruises. A toothbrush and some toothpaste.
Huge.
Right, and this one's in a package. The toothbrush can be folded up into its own handle.
Travel
keeps
kit.
Keeps it nice and clean.
And it is a basic dollar travel kit, again, that can make all the difference in the world to someone.
Ibuprofen, several single service packages. I bought a box of these, like 1,000 packages of these, for practically nothing, right? And I give them 5 or 6 into each bag, and that's, it's not a huge supply, but if they were to go out and buy one of these at a convenience store, it would cost them $3. Right? And I bought an entire bag of 1,000 for like $15.
I don't mean to lay into any of our fallacies while you're doing this, but I noticed you got your vitamin C in here and your ibuprofen here.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm reading a lot that most of the people who are over 80% of the people who are hospitalized for coronavirus have a vitamin D deficiency.
Oh, okay.
So in being able to change our plans as we go, a little vitamin D in here might make a big difference.
Okay. I think there's some other vitamins in here besides C. We can look at the package.
It's very
in a second.
possible. You won't let me open it, so I'll never know.
You can open it if you want.
No, I'm not getting into that mess.
A comb.
Big deal.
I bought a box of like 144 combs for like $2.
Yeah.
Right? Again, if somebody were to go to a 7-Eleven or something and try to buy a comb, it would cost them time, and it would cost them at least $1.
Well, and what you're exposing here is the most expensive thing in the world is to be poor.
Yeah.
You can buy 144 combs cheaper than you can go out and get 3 combs over the course of 6 years.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some place to store stuff, you don't get to do this.
Some dental floss picks.
Dental pick, huge.
Right? 4 or 5 of those in here. So let me put this all back into the bag here.
Now, vitamin D is that's a great suggestion, especially this time of year because the sun, people are staying out of the elements. It's not bright as long as it is in the summer. So you can switch what you put in your bags for the seasons. If it's the middle of the summer, maybe you don't put vitamin D in. You give them the vitamin C. You give them the electrolytes that they need because they're out in the sun and they're sweating. But like I said, this time of year, vitamin D is a great addition to that bag.
Sometimes it's sunscreen, sometimes it's mittens. You got to roll with what's happening.
Now here's some more wipes for personal hygiene. This is a large, I think this is one of the ones that you bought to put in here. Yeah. So again, just personal wipes. Here we've got a hat
Or a gator.
you fleece a gator that can be used as a hat. I wear them sometimes like that, or cover up your neck, or a mask.
Yeah.
And a pair of cotton gloves. They're not going to help you with the waterproofness, but they're going to keep your hands warm. And again, these things, I'm buying them bulk, a dozen at a time, and passing essentially those savings on to, by making these bags 5, 6, 7 bags at a time, I'm saving because I'm able to buy, I'm in the position of privilege to be able to buy in bulk and save a lot of money, which makes it easier for me to give this away. You know, you buy one bandana at a convenience store, it's like $4. Right. We got 12 for like $3. I mean, it's kind of insane. Bar of soap.
Huge.
In a bag.
So
that you can keep your bar of soap and use it more than once.
Now, there's not always access to the water, so use the wipes, but if you can get somewhere where you can wash your hands and face or just take a shower, soap is all the difference.
Couple of hot hands, comfort items. One of the things that I felt was an important rule of thumb when I was putting these bags together is I didn't want to put anything in these bags I wouldn't use myself. Right? I felt like it would be dismissive if I didn't stand by the products that I'm putting in the bag. Antiseptic towelettes. Beyond just cleaning, sanitizing.
Yeah.
You get a wound, you need to get it cleaned, this will do the job.
Yeah.
I bought a giant box of these because I couldn't find anything in the smaller quantity. I'm going to be giving these specific towelettes out for decades. Pair of socks.
Excellent.
Number one thing requested by people that I've talked to.
I can imagine.
Socks. Shoelaces. Useful for shoelaces and everything else. Cordage. A titanium spork. Now this is an interesting thing because I bought one of these and they sent me a dozen. I don't know if I was actually buying a dozen or not, but I got them. So I've given them away. Now, they're designed for backpackers, and that's why it's titanium, because it's lightweight. People who are through packers who want to conserve on weight. And titanium is nice and strong, but a spork is super useful, man.
That's pretty fantastic.
That's pretty fantastic. I think that's the last one that I have to give away. And then I have a bag of munchies. So granola bars, some fruit snacks, things that you can find. And I put in this one, I put a lighter.
Yep.
And I just put it in this bag to keep it waterproof. It could have gone in any of the other bags. I didn't want to put it in with the soap. But I'm also going to call out a little bit the plastic bags.
Huge.
Right? Being able to organize and store and keep stuff dry when you're in a compromised living situation where you don't know where you're going to be sleeping makes a big difference.
I think all of it speaks to a pile of security, right? I have a hard time keeping my head together in a nice, dry, warm house every night, right? Knowing that you're going to get through a tough time with a dry pair of socks and some gloves changes everything.
Yeah, I am fortunate to never have had to experience homelessness, but the individuals that I've talked to and interacted with, they're just as deserving of that security, that shelter, that moment of peace as anybody else is. And if my putting these together helps them, then that's great. And I'm going to keep doing it as much as I can. I encourage other people to do this as well. I'm not asking people to give me money so I can do this. I'm putting this out there as this is something that you can do to help in your community. There's always going to be, unfortunately, people that have fallen out of the ability to house themselves. It's getting worse now with the economy, with the pandemic. There are more and more homeless people out there, people getting evicted. Something like this could help somebody out one day. We recently got the call on one of our groups that there was a family of asylum-seeking family. 2 parents, 2 kids that needed help. We were able to pull these bags together and drop them off and help them through, even transitioning between one stable living situation and another. Something like this can really help
and
them out.
There was limited access to kitchens, so we added in, we just ran through some of the, dollar stores and some of the other places, Walmart, Target, and picked up non-perishable foods or, stuff that they could put in the microwave and things that they didn't have to necessarily have to have a stove to eat. And it just throw in as much as we could in there, and try to be nutritious. There were apple sauces and fruit snacks and things like that. So it doesn't take much for somebody who has something to provide something.
My favorite part of it is how it works exactly against the grain of othering.
Yeah.
Right? It gives a sense of inclusion. Someone cares about you while this is happening, and someone may even see it happen. Right?
And there are times when we're a little more flush financially. We could put a $5 bill in there.
Yeah.
Or a roll of quarters, or something to because a roll of quarters means they can wash their clothes at a laundromat.
Yep.
Or they could use it for whatever. And that's a thing. Sometimes we put gum in there because you don't always have that. Toothpaste isn't, gum is very helpful. Gum's also, like a juicy fruit. It's also sweet, so it's got that little bit of when you're running low on energy, you have something. And anything like that can go in these bags. It's just
the other thing
what
that
can
I've
you
done.
think of and what can you do to help?
The other thing that I've done is I've actually just gotten these bottles and I've packed the bottle full of stuff, and I keep it in my cup holder in my car.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a couple of snacks, a couple of granola bars, some of the fruit snacks, maybe a hand wipe or 2. I had some nail clippers. I'd put the nail clippers in the bottom. Right, so just some little personal hygiene things. And I figured out at one point that the bottle and the contents cost me $5. And I made a dozen of them, and I would just put 2 in my car. And one day I was stuck in traffic, and I just reached down and grabbed the granola bar, and I was able to eat it. And then I repacked it when I got home. So it was there for myself as much as it was to hand off, right? And so where I am, they'll stand in the median strip, and where I go to turn left to go home, there's a guy standing there. And there have been women as well, or at least female presenting people. And I'll just roll down the window and just hand it to them. And sometimes I'll slip a little $5 bill into the hair ties that are there around the outside, or I'll put it inside or whatever. And if I get the opportunity, if it's safe, I'll look in the rearview mirror to see how they're reacting, because I've already driven away by the time they've figured out what's going on. And they're always opening it up and looking inside and exploring it, Always interested. I've had the good fortune of being able to talk to a couple of these folks, and one guy that I was talking to, he just started crying. I handed him the bag, and he just started crying. He was standing in the rain, wearing a trash bag, holding a sign, and he just started crying because somebody had taken the time to think about him in advance and have something ready for him. So I hope that...
And the purpose of this isn't a self-serving to sit on our own pedestal. Everyone, and Mark, you said it earlier, everyone deserves dignity and respect. And when when they're in a situation like that, they lose that very quickly. And if we can help them gain that back, gain a little bit of their self-dignity back, make them feel like they matter.
That somebody's looking out for them even a little bit.
That's what we need to do. And that's part of this community, is to make sure that we're taking care of people. Doesn't matter what their situation is. It doesn't matter. Did they make 1,000 bad choices to get there? Maybe they did, but they're there. All right, and they still need the help.
Mark sent me an article once. I think it was, if you're poor, you need to make 20 years.
It's 20 years with no mistakes to make it out of poverty.
To make it out of poverty in America. 20 years.
I got in trouble in 20 minutes.
I mean, I make a mistake every day, right? You know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, there's not much difference between us. Right?
Yeah.
We're of an age, within similar age, circumstances of where we were born and the lucks along the way and whatnot, and we end up in completely different situations. And I was reading also that I don't know exactly, a staggering number of people in America are one paycheck away from homelessness.
I think it's about, I think it was 60% who couldn't come up with a single $400 expense.
Yeah. And $1,000 expense would.
And we're on the verge of 25 to 30 million households losing their homes in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic.
That's going to be great.
That tells you what we're doing right.
So this is one way that we're trying to give back. What I'd like to do, Mark, is I'm going to leave this one with you, so you can have an impact in your community, keep it in your car, whatnot, and we'll figure out a way to maybe get you some more of it.
My money says if we take a 5-minute break right now, I can go out front and find Robinson, who I talk to almost every day out there, and I bet you he'd find use for that.
I'm sure.
I mean, the veterans I was talking about earlier. They were sitting outside of the 7-Eleven again a couple of weeks later, and I popped out. I said, "Guys, I don't have anything today." They're like, "We don't need anything. You've helped us already. That's it. We're good. Thank you." They remembered. They're like, "Hey, man, how's it going?" When I got out of the car, they remembered me, and they're like, "No, we don't. You're good. You've helped us." A couple of days later, there was another gentleman. That's a very good hangout spot. Is that 7-Eleven, and he's like, "Hey, do you have any cash so I can grab a sandwich?" And I'm like, "You know what? I don't." And I went in and I got myself a Coke Zero and a pre-wrapped sub and a candy bar to drive home because I didn't eat lunch that day. And I got back out into the car and I thought, "What the hell's wrong with me? I have a card in my pocket that connects to my money." So I said, "I'll tell you what, you don't even have to come in with me. Just hang out here. I'll go in, I'll grab you a couple of sandwiches and some waters and whatever else you need, so that when you're not embarrassed that you're coming in with me, I'll take care of it." And I did. I bought him it was hot. So I bought him 2 big things at Deer Park, a ton of vitamins, just vitamin packs because they didn't have the emergencies, a couple of subs, and there were some other things that I bought. And I'm like, "Here you go." Because, I didn't have one of those bags. And it's that simple. You can do that too, and I felt really bad because I told him no at first, and I was getting ready to drive away, and I'm like, I'm an idiot. I have an ATM card, a debit card right here in my pocket.
I had a friend in Bluefield who ran a local not-for-profit, and he converted so much of his cash every month to Kroger cards. Kroger's our local grocery. And whenever he tried to use a Kroger card and there wasn't enough on it to cover his purchase, he put it in a separate pocket. And every time he ran into people in need, he'd just hand these out. And some of them had $3 on them, some of them had $19.90. But he kept decent track, and he'd just hand out these Kroger cards because in the community we were in, anybody could get to a Kroger.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a lifesaver for folks.
Sure.
I got bad off one time. lost a job, knew I had another job coming, and he just caught me on the street. He said, "How's it doing?" And I said, "We're a little thin, but it'll be good soon." And he just reached in his back pocket and gave me a couple of Kroger cards, and man, did it get us through, right?
Sure.
When you're not doing well, $7 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
When you're not doing well, $12 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right?
And not everybody has the privilege of being able to have a really good support system. You know, in my life, there are people that I know when we fall back, you know, if we fall into something, they'll help. And not everyone has that. And you know, we take it, people, as human beings and as people, that gets taken for granted. And when you stop and realize, damn, I've got people who care and will help, you know, we'll never, you know, we might have to move out of state, or we might have to share a room or whatever with people, but they'll make sure that we've got what we need. You need to pay that forward to people who don't. And you know, once you start doing that, it becomes second nature, and you start to see. You don't see an eyesore person. You see a person who's just down and needs a bump.
And there's an amazing number of reasons that people get isolated or get down, right? Divorces, you have to move, age, mental illness,
Abuse.
Bad luck. Yeah. Abuse is just huge, right? You never know why someone's gotten into a tough situation. Yeah. Going back to the Nirvana fallacy, I don't like the people automatically assume, well, if I give them some money, they may buy beer.
Right.
You know, if I've been outside for a couple of weeks, I'd probably want a beer.
Mark, if you give me money, I'm buying beer.
That's why I don't give you money.
If you've got $5 you can give away, chances are you were going to spend it on beer. So who are you going to
Yeah,
judge?
I mean,
Right?
you know, there's no here is to get you through being human a little more.
Yes.
And we have to get past that of I'm going to give them money and they're going to waste it. You're going to give them money and they're going to meet their need.
Yeah.
If it's an immediate need where, hey, I just need a food, I need, a meal,
Just
I need a
your
hotel
mechanic.
room for the night, they're going to meet that need. And it's a critical need for them. And we shouldn't judge them for what their critical need is at that point that you're giving them the money.
Just like everyone else you exchange money with.
Yeah. And this very topic of how to appropriately help others came up on a Solarpunk forum, and all these arguments were made. But it was also pointed out during that discussion that if somebody is buying alcohol with the money that you provided them, they may be using that to self-medicate because they can't get real health care and they've got, a bad leg that they need a little bit of pain relief from, right? Like, stop applying your moral views to other people's immediate needs.
And and not your moral views, your physical peer view, your mental peer view, right? Why don't they just mow their own lawn?
Yeah.
Well, that's not the easiest thing for some folks.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would much rather, and I know it's weird, I would much rather just buy someone, hey, can you give me money to buy a sandwich? Why don't we go and get you a meal?
Yeah.
A sandwich sucks. Let's get something hot. Let's get something good. Hey, can I just go grab you a pizza or something that'll last a couple of days? So it's not just that. It's I feel good because I know I'm walking away and at least they've eaten.
The other thing that
and it I know that nutrition's important.
Yeah. The other thing that I think you and I discussed when I was first conceptualizing these bags is the number of different places you would have to go to get these things.
Just getting to the various locations is difficult.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, put together a bag if you can. Put together a bottle if you can. Keep $5 handy to hand out if you can. Help in another way if that's what you prefer. But get out there and help.
Spend a week taking the bus where you go. Find out how much more of your life it eats. Right?
I was a busser for a long time.
I've been at jobs for 8 hours. I've been at jobs for 10 hours, and it seems long. And you look up, and there's somebody else there working with you, has an hour and 15 minutes on the bus before and after work. It's got to make it incredibly difficult. Just running around and getting these items without resources is very difficult.
Yeah.
Any barrier you can break down.
Yeah.
Make everybody be the best they can be.
Do good.
Be good.
That's it.
I'm happy with it.
Let's go see if we can give this to your friend.
You want to see if Robinson's out there?
Let's go off audio here. We hope you enjoyed that episode and that it maybe inspired you to do something in your community too.
If we have inspired you, let us know. Show us what you're doing. Send us pictures of your bag of hope. Whatever you're doing in relation to this episode.
Comment below with things you think we should put into the bags.
If you have ideas of what we should put into the bags. That's a really good one, Joe. Get out there and do good.
Be good.
Like and follow. Subscribe.